I'll say it once and I'll say it again. Resident Evil 4 really took me by surprise. So I've put in about 3-ish hours into the game now, and while I have made a couple of videos on a couple of the issues I've experienced with the game, as a title itself, it is really solid. As someone who's never actually played Resident Evil 4 for more than like 30 minutes, I'm really impressed what they've managed to do with the remake. It's been really enjoyable to play. The gameplay feels great. I was a little concerned about how heavy Leon felt when I played the demo, but then after a little while, you kind of just get over it and it feels natural. I do wish he ran a little bit faster, but you know, we can't have everything in life. The parry system is a fun inclusion to the gameplay. It sort of keeps you on your toes and it makes you feel like you have a different way to avoid damage. Because if you just find yourself trying to run away, you're gonna take a lot of damage. I know, because it happened a lot in the beginning. And as it turns out, you're meant to parry a lot of stuff. And when you parry a lot of stuff, the game becomes a lot easier and the gameplay loop makes a lot more sense. But the game is obviously, you know, it's gorgeous. Let's just say it how it is. The RE engine is very impressive. The game is absolutely stunning. It gives me the same sort of experience I did when I played Resident Evil 2. I really enjoyed Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2, well, the remake anyway. Resident Evil 2 Remake was the first time I'd played a Resident Evil game and gone, this is really, really fun. Like, I'd played Resident Evil 5, I'd played Resident Evil 6, weren't particularly enamored, and when I was growing up, the Resident Evil games just didn't sort of strike me as something I was interested in. Oh, how wrong I was now that I'm a lot older. But I love the Resident Evil 2 remake. I went back and played the Resident Evil 1 remake. That was also really solid. Resident Evil 3 remake, I've recently just played and finished, and yeah, the less said about that, the better. But the Resident Evil 4 remake basically took everything that people loved about Resident Evil 2 remake and Resident Evil 3 remake, although admittedly maybe not so much from number 3, and just made it so much more enjoyable. Don't get me wrong, Resident Evil 2 remake will forever have a soft spot in my heart. But Resident Evil 4 feels really good to play. The gun handling is fantastic. Shooting zombies in the face is oh so satisfying. Explosions are visceral and wonderful. The story, admittedly this time around, I feel is a bit darker, but it does still have a bit of the weird Resident Evil charm I feel like we've come to sort of know and love from the series by now. But yeah, I just love being able to explore this sort of semi-open world. It's not really open world, but you're kind of given the option to explore a lot of the time. And it's the typical Resident Evil formula of, hey, there's a bunch of stuff laying around. You don't technically need to loot most of it, but it's going to help because eventually you're going to run out of ammo. It's just a very satisfying formula, and Capcom have it down to a T, and the game is just really fun to play. So for anyone that is sort of on the fence, the Resident Evil 4 remake, I would definitely recommend getting it. It's really fun. The PS5 version definitely has some issues. I don't know about the PC version, but as an actual game, you know, as an experience, it is really very solid. In terms of the actual gameplay, I haven't had any real complaints. The only complaint I have is that Leon runs weirdly slowly for a man being chased by, although they're not technically zombies, the Ganado, I suppose their actual name is. But yeah, it's a title that really just took me by surprise, because I was completely convinced I was going to play it and be like, okay, it's a bit samey of Resident Evil 2. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Or maybe I wasn't going to be that interested in it, or maybe it was gonna end up being like Resident Evil 3, which ended up being like a 4-ish hour game at best. But no, it is actually holding up really well, even after 3 hours, and I don't think I'm that close to being done. I'm convinced I'm not even like a third of the way there, I'm not too sure. But just the overall formula, they've really managed to sort of up it with the remakes. And it's kind of a testament to just how good remakes can be when the effort is put in. And I think that's probably what made people so mad about Resident Evil 3 in the first place, is that Resident Evil 2 Remake was really good, and then Resident Evil 3 just wasn't it. But thankfully, if you have any woes about that, Resident Evil 4 Remake is far from it. Is It's closer to Resident Evil 2 Remake than it is 3, except this time it's a bit more open world. I say open world, it's not really open world, it's linear with open-esque areas. But for the most part, my interest is mainly in the sort of the gameplay and the sort of the combat and everything, and it just feels so very good to, you know, shoot Ganados. It just feels really impactful. And I think the weight, as detrimental as it feels at the beginning, the weight behind everything you do makes the entire experience feel a lot more, I don't know, visceral, I suppose, a lot more impactful. It has the punch that you want from something like this. So yeah, I can't really speak from a original fan's perspective, which is unfortunate, but you know, there's nothing that can be done about it. I have not played the original, I can't really speak for it. But as far as remakes go, this is definitely one of the better ones that we've received in quite some time. Capcom have shown that their remake game, very, very strong, it seems. And if they manage to keep this up, they're going to keep creating more and more Resident Evil fans. And then when we inevitably get Resident Evil 9, it'll be just as good, hopefully. Yeah, hopefully Resident Evil 9, whenever it actually comes out, will actually be another solid entry to the Resident Evil franchise. Ever since Resident Evil 6, it seems Capcom have realized, oh, maybe we should sort things out for the Resident Evil franchise. And I tell you what, they've managed it. They've really turned it around, because obviously RE7 was fantastic. RE8, I think a lot of people really enjoyed. And then RE2 Remake was great. RE3 Remake, and RE4 Remake, I only hear good things about. So, as a game, very impressive. Very enjoyable. Lots to love, lots to enjoy. I think if you played, you know, the RE2 Remake and you just were not feeling it, there no chance in hell this game is going to do anything to dissuade how you feel about that. But if you enjoyed any of the gameplay of those ones, owe it to yourself to get Resident Evil 4 at some point. The remake is just so much fun and is really enjoyable, and with how games are currently, I sound super jaded, and it's probably because I am. We get a lot of stuff where it just isn't very good or isn't very fun, and Resident Evil 4 Remake I'm still enjoying, and at no point have I gone, oh, I can't wait until this is over so I can play something else. And that's something I get regularly with video games now. So when I find a game where I'm not immediately going, okay, well, hopefully we can finish this soon so I can go on to something else. That's probably more of an issue with me than it is video games. But RE4 Remake has yet to get me there. Don't like how I said that. But I'm just really enjoying my time with the game. And when I step away from it, I'm thinking, okay, when can I next get back on the game so I can keep playing it? It is just that good. Would I say it's a masterpiece? No, but that's because my definition of masterpiece is, I'm not sure if I describe anything as a masterpiece. I think it's too perfect of a terminology. The game is very solid and very good, and I know some people are sort of claiming it as a masterpiece, and I get it. The game is very good. It is one of the better games we have received in a very long time. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's incredibly good. If you enjoyed any of the other remakes, do yourself a favor, pick the game up. If you enjoyed the original, again, do yourself a favor, pick the game up. It's really good. Sure, the PS5 version has a couple of little issues, but hopefully they fix it within the next week. But if not, there's also the PC version, which I don't know if it's having any real issues. I've not looked into it myself, but I think the PC version seems to be having less issues to worry about as far as I'm aware, but I could be wrong on that one. Hopefully not. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the game. Really enjoying it. Highly recommend. So, with that then, I must say my goodbyes. Thank you to those that stuck around until the end. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. And I have been James, the Mayor of Jamestown. And until next time, goodbye.